Oh, why is that?
I'm trying to give up my Mentos so I don't have to go to the dentist as often.
Oh, fair, fair. Mentos, is that what you said? Are you a
Yep,
Mentos junk?
yep.
Totally fair, yeah.
I'm
Is
not
that your
I'm not sure if I'm gonna make it personally, but worth a shot.
is that your candy of choice, Mentos?
Oh yeah, definitely. I have a whole box on my desk.
Oh my God, that's crazy. Yeah,
Yes.
I'm a big fan of Mentos gum.
Mhm.
Mentos
What's
gum
that?
is really good. It's super chewy and tastes
I
fantastic.
should
You're on
probably
your
get some
ball.
of that dentist gum. That might be okay. Good
Oh,
substitute.
what's that?
I don't know. It's like this dentist gum that they have at stores and stuff. It's like, chew it for a wider smile or some crap like that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Does it have less sugar in it? Is that
I
why?
have no fucking clue.
Hmm.
Yeah. My problem with gum is I eventually end up with like a wad that big in my mouth, and I'm just like, well, and I gotta like barf this out.
No kidding. Wow. Well, I hope you have a good day otherwise. Did you get any kind of a vacation today or did you have to
No,
work?
I went to the rodeo yesterday, actually.
Oh, cool. Where was that at?
Just up the road from me. It's in Surrey. Has riders
Cool.
and everything. It's not
Oh,
that
is it
great.
Like Cloverdale?
Yeah,
Cool.
not that great without friends. Go alone is very boring.
Oh, really? Yeah, not much going on.
Well, like I mean, there's rides and stuff, but you're not there with friends, so nah,
Yeah. Oh, that's too bad. So you didn't have anybody to go with?
no, no, afraid not.
Fair. Oh, that's too bad. Yeah, I didn't even know that was happening. Is it still happening?
Yeah, it's happening for another 4 hours.
Oh, but today's the last day kind of
Yeah,
thing. Fair enough. Fair enough. Well, thank you for being able to meet a little earlier. I definitely could have done the 8, but I thought, oh, I don't even have to be at work today. If you could meet sooner, that would be fantastic. So
yeah,
thank you.
no problem.
Much appreciated. Um, yeah, I'll just go right into 15 if you're okay with that.
No problem. I'm
So
basically, I don't see what else we could do with this. I was pretty comfortable with how it ended so far.
yeah. Yeah, I mean the flow here is fantastic. Obviously, almost nothing to say for the first few pages. Heavyweight is still one word,
Ah,
but whenever you can fix that. Um, yeah, I love what you've done here with the flow of Ramona's thing here. This was just fantastic. Little things that I'm suggesting. Ramona dodged the second lurker's tentacles, I think is what you wanted to say rather than lurker tentacles, but
ah,
either way works. As they shot towards her, my suggestion here is just a slight wording thing. Ramona dodged the second lurker's tentacles as they shot towards her head, but not the creature's clawed hands as it stabbed into her side rather than missed, because the mist is didn't seem to be a
okay.
fit situation. Little thing, you can do that or not. Ramona bit back, I think you wanted to say, rather than Ramona bite back
Yeah.
as it scream. Um, she could feel little thing here. You've got she could feel her blood dripping down her body, and then your next sentence suddenly she could feel her mana rising up. And so
Hmm.
again, you want to watch. The key is the reason I keep harping on this repetition thing is not because it's the worst thing you can do, but because what the message it sends to a publisher or anybody who's reading it at a serious level that may want to take this further. The message repetition sends them is that you didn't proofread it
Hmm.
or that you didn't slow down enough to sort of think about how it would sound as it was read, which a lot of writers, myself included, have been guilty of. They're so busy writing they don't go back and put themselves in the reader's point
That's
of
why
view.
editor's a full-time job.
Absolutely, yeah. But unfortunately these days you are your own editor half the time. So um oh, this sentence I wasn't sure what this meant. She winced as she fell on her, but she looked up. Who is
Oh,
her?
fell on her butt.
She winced as she fell on her butt. Oh, so butt like butt.
Yeah, I think that got auto-corrected.
Okay. Okay, fair. Yeah, that makes more sense. Same comment here, but repetitious words. Love this. Love that you did this. No, and I'm suggesting no, she said again, but I love all this as well. Again, screamed and scream. It's all spelling stuff. It's so minor. It's so
So
minor.
just
So
grammar stuff.
all grammar stuff. And the only thing I thought it was missing, and this is definitely something a publisher would 100% suggest, because you had this wicked opening where you had the reaction from Julius. And even though I know you're going into a chapter, the follow-up chapter that's going to extend this, the chapter ending with her saying more powerful, more in control of her destiny, like nothing could stop her, that didn't feel like an ending. It felt like, oh, where's the hook to keep reading? And you might have thought, well, that is a hook. but because the chapter is all about the reaction to her, it felt like it belonged in this chapter because the one comment I'm going to make about, and let me open it, 16. Let me see here.
Yeah, I didn't get a lot done with 16. Not as much as I'd
That's
like.
no worries. Yeah, and 16, I could tell that you're still working on it.
I'm on this
For
book binge and it's taking up all my time.
I know what you mean. For me, it's like that too. I'll get into something that I'm reading, and sometimes it'll cause me to get away from the creative part of stuff.
It's
I
worse
could
when
tell.
this thing's 900 chapters long.
What's that?
The book's 900 chapters
Your
currently.
book is
No,
900.
no, the book I'm reading.
Oh my God.
I'm only in
900
the
chapters.
700s.
Good Lord. I'm impressed by that. That's pretty cool.
Yep.
So some of it was just worrying stuff like I hate illusion. Julius swore as the horde of lurkers. God, she got me doing it as well. Charge at them. I didn't understand what that
Okay.
whole sentence was saying. Same with a couple. This is where I thought, okay, no, he's still working on it because I could tell by the volume of sort of spelling and grammar and stuff that you're just still sort of massaging it into place. Same thing with the
Yeah.
two paragraphs down.
I don't.
Julius,
I don't do
sorry, go
grammar.
ahead.
Sorry, I was just saying I don't do grammar checks before the final draft. There's no
Fair
point.
enough. Fair enough. Yeah, the challenge is that the grammar was enough of an issue here that I actually couldn't read it because it
Ah,
was so thick. So Julius watched Oak went down. I think he meant Julius watched Oak as he went down.
yeah.
Under two. That's good. Oak. Now this sentence I'm just picking on it because it's an example of sort of when you go in there and definitely work on it. Feel free to massage these. Oak raised his head and bit into one of Lurker's necks, his lupine head shaking the eldritch monster like a dog with a bone, ignoring the other Lurkers that attacked. I ran out of breath about halfway through that. It's a long sentence, so some of it's just a matter of breaking it up so it's a little easier to read. Um, and one before I went much further, because I did between the last chapter and here, this is about as far as I got. The question I had here is this whole chapter simply the same thing we just saw,
No,
or an extension of the same thing,
no.
but now we switched over to
It
Julius?
starts off a little bit of the same thing. Only instead of this, in Ramona's perspective, she saw everything happening and she had basically a panic attack, thinking they were all going to get wiped out. We then go
Mm-hmm.
to Julius' perspective, where he's like, "Nah, this is fine. This is acceptable."
Mm-hmm.
Because he knows that the werewolves aren't going to die from this level of maiming. He's a lot more self-confident. So, like, it's a different perspective on the same battle. Ramona's being one of panic and fear, and Julius is of more of a calm professionalism. So, like,
Yeah.
kind of highlight their differences. And then the other half of the chapter is Ramona running off, Julius chasing after her, and then Ramona attacking Julius in a frenzy, and then dealing with that. And then I think depending on how long that's going to take, I'm rather going to end it there and then move on to the Mind Flayer attack in the next chapter,
Mm-hmm.
or follow up with the Mind Flayer in this chapter.
Gotcha. Okay, so one of the first thought I had is that two chapters devoted to but by the time I got to the end of the previous chapter, I was like, okay, that was getting a bit long, but if that's the end of the description of the battle, great. Like it was good, and it was sort of like again we talked about before. If a comedian stand-up comedian stands up and gives a great comedy routine for an hour, you're like, cool. But if he's like an hour and a half, you're like, Jesus, when is this thing going to end? Even the best comedian in the world needs to know when to stop. And the only reaction I had to this was, oh my God, we're now going to get more of this. So what it told me, it sent me two messages. It told me this must be an incredibly important battle to take two chapters to tell. Or what it tells me is that every time we're going to have a battle in the future, it could be more than one chapter. Am I ready to keep reading a book that's going to devote that much kind of time to one battle? There's a couple of ways. So, and again, that's just one reaction.
Yeah.
My first thought
My
was,
one counteraction to that is that on Royal Road, lots of battles go on for multiple chapters. It's not a strange thing. It might be more of a thing in my case because I have so long between chapters coming out, but I don't think that's necessarily a deal breaker in my case.
yeah, I mean, I would be my suggestion was going to be put these two chapters together because that's not 12 pages is not too long for me. And my only concern, even if whether there's a gap between chapters that you're publishing on Royal Road or not, um, it can this is one of the top 5 things that can make a person lose an audience. People do this all the time, and it's the easy thing to do. Where it's sort of like one long chapter might lose people, but if you're going to go 2 chapters and we're still on the same thing, it begs the question why. why are we spending so much time in this battle? Like, if it's the final battle in Lord of the Rings, it would make sense because that's like the climactic battle. That could be long. But because so far, whenever you've had sort of confrontations or battles taking place, you've had this nice, tight, snappy. It's like, ooh, you're in, you're out. And I'm like, yeah, I get it. But the message it sends me is that this battle must be one of the single most important things that happens. And assuming that's true,
It's not.
there you go. So if it's not, plus
Actually,
it,
now that I think about it, I think I don't need the mind flare at the end. I think I could probably just end it on this chapter with Ramona getting into, like, lashing out at Julius and then falling into the crevasse. I think I can just end it there because because the whole point of the mind flare showing up was to separate Ramona and Julius from the group. So, if I can do that without it, good enough.
It might be, yeah, because just if there's what they call an orgy of information, and even if it's all good, it's sort of like, oh wow, there's so much going on, and what am I supposed to be focusing on? When is this going to end? And
also, that helps reiterate that the mind flayers don't know that they're here.
That's perfect, yeah. So that would be my only significant note would be that if you can get this into one chapter,
and this needs to come out tomorrow. So
fair,
yeah.
Okay.
Also,
Okay.
a big thing on Royal Road is chapter length consistency. So if I'm doing about 10 pages per chapter, it's more important to keep that consistent than to have one chapter that's like 43 pages and then go back to 10.
Fair.
Because that pisses people off more than having to read a couple chapters all depicting the same thing.
Well, and if you did have time and you weren't under pressure to get 15 down, because that was the other note I was going to say, is I felt like 15 and 16 did feel a bit long, and there were sections in there that I was like, okay, this is interesting, but it's kind of losing me a bit because it's like, okay, what's going to happen here? So it's a minor thing, but I think you could, if you had time, you could easily get all of this into that 10 pages. But if you're in a time constraint, the only thing I would add then with chapter 15 is potentially a hook at the end, especially.
Any recommendations for how to write that?
It would, to me, I would have, because you've done such a lovely job of at different points in the previous chapters having different people register, why is she here? Or certainly Julius, there's this general feeling of why is she here and is she part of the team or not? And Julius pointing at her when talking to what's his face, the wimpy lurker, whatever else, saying, is she's going to stay? Or are you telling me you're going to leave? Because you've got all of those things. To me, the most interesting thing would be like, she feels like you've got a great thing where she says she feels like she can do anything now and all this power. My suggestion would be, and this is unfortunately kind of countermanded by the fact that in the next chapter you do have a battle continuing. Normally, I would recommend that the battle's over. The battle is basically over, and she has clearly been the dominant person doing it, or whatever, or at least it looks like it's over before a second wave comes, and all of the other guys are like that would be the most exciting thing, is to see the woman. I mean, first of all, everybody
I would definitely do that. I don't mind
I would do that.
I don't mind scrapping chapter, whatever next chapter after this one, and just having this one end with her like coated in lurker blood, looking at everyone. It's like,
oh, it's like, have you seen the movie The Descent or Carrie or any of those ones? There's a couple of great movies where a woman is just gone completely like savage, and everybody's looking at her and they're like, holy shit. Like a bunch of men who are part of the BPA, they've been doing this for a while, they're experienced, they're lichens, or whatever else they are. And she was the one who was always like, why is she here? What's she doing here? Like if this is the end of this chapter is her doing like that savage thing where she's like, yeah, 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 yeah. It's again, kind of a slightly Jean Greyish moment where all the guys are like, holy crap. And Julius is like, again, that's a perfect way to end it, since this chapter started with him questioning whether she was good at anything other than the couple of things he mentioned. That's how I would end it.
Okay, so something like she stood there covered in lurker blood. All the guys looked at her, and then Julius turns to Charlie and he's like, so you still think she doesn't belong here?
Sure. Yeah, you could absolutely do it that way. You could either do it on that sort of comedic note where Julius is saying, okay, then, like, there you go. Or you could just have, you could have both. I would definitely have all of the guys, like, I would have two closing beats where everybody's sort of like, for like a couple of hot seconds. And then he goes, so you still think she can't? Like, I would do both. I wouldn't choose 100%.
So, Lurker blood, two beats, staring, and Julius makes a joke. Okay, and we'll just scrap chapter 16 and move on from there.
Yeah, I love that you're putting this chapter up. I think it's parfait. Well, whatever those cosmetic changes, go through it for those little tweaks. That ending, one of your best chapters. I love it. I love what you're doing with Ramona. I love it to death.
Yeah, okay, so chapter 16 has been just completely scrapped. It occurs to me there's nothing there I can use going forward, so whole thing's gone.
Perfect. If I mean, up to you. Don't just do it because I said. But if you're happy with it, I think that is the
That's fine.
better part of
Like,
wisdom. I think.
there's really no point in splitting them up because I still have them splitting up regardless, so it's like those choice games. It doesn't matter what choices you make so long as you get to the end.
Fair enough.
More accurately, it doesn't matter what choices you make, the ending is always the same.
That's so cool. Yeah, absolutely. I'm just gonna make sure I've got the right notes here for
What the
you.
hell did I put in chapter 17?
Where are we? Perfect.
Okay, so yeah, chapter 17 just picks right up where chapter 15 lets off.
That's perfect. No, good work. Good work again, Hayden. This was.
Geez, I put a lot of shit in this one.
But that's several weeks.
I just copy and pasted my script into these. So I'm basically looking at 7 pages worth of script writing that I'm going to have to convert into novel writing.
Oh, fair. Fair. No, this is several weeks in a row now. Just really, really solid stuff, Connor. Hayden, I almost called you Connor. That's my son's name. I'll get this to you immediately, these notes. And does next week, same time, still work for you as usual?
No problem. Like, do you mean like this time now or 8 o'clock this time?
Oh, yeah, sorry, 8 o'clock next week. Yeah.
No problem then.
Awesome. Okay, great work again, man. We'll see you next week, and don't be afraid to bug me for next week. I'll wait then to get your next chapter.
Yeah, because I'm gonna have to write a whole freaking new one. Yeah, I just deleted chapter 16 with the new chapter 16 being labeled as "Journey to the Center of the Earth."
Perfect.
Mostly because we get that cool scene where they go into the mountain and see the jungle.
Oh, okay. Love that.
Great.
Awesome. Looking forward to it.
See you next week, Paul.
Take care, Hayden. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.